The air smells of wood smoke and wet clay. A woman is climbing a ramp of packed earth, a basket of dried maize braced against her hip, and she does not look down. Below her, 10,000 roofs of thatch and mud. Beyond them, the Mississippi, brown and slow in the August heat. It is the summer of the year 1100, and she is standing on the highest structure in North America at the center of the largest city that will exist north of Mexico for the next 680 years. This is Cahokia. 300 years later, it is empty, not ruined, not burned, empty. The plazas swept clean, the houses gone, the mounds standing in the grass with nobody left to climb them. What does it take for 20,000 people to walk away from the greatest thing they ever built? The answer is not a disaster, and it unsettles something we assume without ever examining it, that a city, once built, is meant to last. The place is a floodplain that geologists call the American Bottom, a wide shelf of black, alluvial soil on the Illinois side of the river, directly across the water from what is now downtown St. Louis. At its height, the city covered roughly 6 square miles. Between 10,000 and 20,000 people lived in the center, and perhaps twice that number in the towns and farmsteads spreading along the creeks. At the heart of it stood a mound of earth 100 feet high. Its base covers more ground than the Great Pyramid at Giza. It was raised without the wheel, without draft animals, without a single metal tool, one basket of soil at a time on the backs of human beings. Something near 15 million basket loads. They ate maize, and before maize, the crops their grandmothers had domesticated: goosefoot, erect knotweed, maygrass, little barley. The streets smelled of fish, smoke, and drying river mud. And in the 50-acre plaza at the foot of the Great Mound, a plaza they leveled by hand, filling the low ground ridge by ridge, thousands gathered to watch a polished stone disc roll across packed clay while men ran after it and threw their spears at where they believed it would stop. The game was called chunkey. None of this existed in the year 1000. Around the year 1050, something happened that the archaeologist Timothy Pocketat calls Cahokia's Big Bang. In roughly a single generation, the population jumped from about 1,400 people to more than 10,000. Villages for miles around emptied. New neighborhoods were laid out on a grid, tilted 5 degrees east of true north. The whole city aligned to something we can no longer see. We do not know one name from that generation, but we know how the work was done because the earth remembers the order in which it was moved. Wet clay from the creek bottoms, then sand, then clay again, packed in layers so the mound would not slump in the rain. Consider what a July afternoon sounded like there, thousands of feet on wet ground, and very little talking because the load is heavy and the ramp is steep. In 1961, an archaeologist named Warren Whitry was working a salvage excavation ahead of a new highway when he noticed something in his site maps. A line of large post pits, curving, not a wall, an arc. What he had found were circles of red cedar posts, the largest of them 410 feet across with 48 posts set around the rim. Stand at the center on the morning of the spring equinox, and the sun rises directly out of the front of the Great Mound, as though the mound were giving birth to it. Now add the taste. In beakers excavated at Cahokia, the researchers Patricia Crown and Timothy Pocketat found the chemical residue of black drink, a bitter, caffeinated tea brewed from yaupon holly. Yaupon holly does not grow in Illinois. The nearest source is more than 400 miles south, near the Gulf. Somebody carried it upriver by canoe and on foot, so that on a cold morning, the people standing inside that circle of cedar could hold something hot and bitter in their hands while they waited for the light. About half a mile south of the Great Mound lies a low ridge that surveyors labeled Mound 72. Between 1967 and 1971, the archaeologist Melvin Fowler opened it. Inside was a body laid on a cape of more than 20,000 marine shell beads, cut and arranged in the shape of a bird. Those shells came from the Gulf of Mexico, 700 miles away. For decades, the burial was read as a warrior king, a falcon man, the founder of a dynasty. Then, in 2016, a team led by Thomas Emerson re-examined the remains and found that the bird held two people, a man and a woman laid together. Around them, more than 270 others. In one pit, 53 young women buried in rows, nearly all of them between 15 and 25 years old. We do not know who they were or whether they went willingly. Their bones show they were healthy and well-fed. That is almost all we can say, honestly. Then, around the year 1175, Cahokia built a wall, 2 miles of it enclosing the Great Mound and the plaza. Nearly 20,000 logs, set upright in a trench with square watchtowers spaced roughly every 70 feet. They rebuilt it 4 times over the following century, and each rebuilding took another 20,000 trees off the surrounding hills. The plaza would have smelled of cut oak for months. Nobody builds a wall like that around a marketplace, and beyond it, the countryside was already thinning. Farmsteads left standing empty. Neighborhoods burned and never rebuilt. By the year 1350, there was no one at Cahokia at all. And within another 100 years, the emptiness had spread up and down the central Mississippi Valley, across a region so completely depopulated that in 1983, the archaeologist Stephen Williams gave it a name: the Vacant Quarter. For a long time, the story told about Cahokia was a story of punishment. They cut too many trees. The hillsides eroded. The floods came. A civilization drowning in its own success. A tidy morality tale with a lesson at the end. The evidence has not been kind to it. There was a flood, a major one, recorded in the sediments of Horseshoe Lake around the year 1200 and identified by Samuel Munoz and his colleagues in 2015. There was a drought. But in 2021, the archaeologist Caitlin Rankin dug beside the mounds looking for the erosion layers that a self-inflicted collapse would have left in the soil. She did not find them. The ground under Cahokia is stable. The city did not eat its own foundation. What happened instead was slower and stranger and far more human. Across roughly 100 years, household by household and season by season, people decided that this place was no longer worth staying in. And they left. They did not vanish. Their descendants are the Osage, the Quapaw, the Ho-Chunk, and others who carried Cahokia's world outward in every direction. Cahokia did not fall. Cahokia was abandoned, a very different verb, and it belongs to the people who chose it. If you have ever driven between St. Louis and the east, you have passed within a mile of the Great Mound at 70 miles an hour. The interstate runs straight through the ancient city. There was a drive-in theater in the plaza once, and a housing subdivision on the ridge. St. Louis itself was called Mound City in the 1800s for the 26 mounds standing along its riverfront. In the 1860s, they were carted away by wagon to level ground for railroad beds. We did that because of an assumption we still carry without noticing, that a place people left is a place that failed. That permanence is the proof of a civilization. The builders of Cahokia do not appear to have agreed. And there is one more thing. Cahokia is not its name. The word belongs to a sub-tribe of the Illinois Confederacy, living nearby when French missionaries arrived in the 1690s, 500 years after the last resident walked out. The French borrowed it for the mounds because they needed something to write down. The people who raised 120 mounds out of a floodplain, who set a circle of cedar against the equinox sun, who carried the sea 700 miles inland in the form of shell beads, left no name for themselves that we can read. The largest city in North America stood here for 300 years, and we have never once been able to say its name out loud.